Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on another episode of The Standard. I'm Chris Bandura from Dave and Adams. We have a really cool guest today. Musician, sports fan, sports card collector, kind of does it all. You probably heard their music in some video games that are some of the most popular franchises out there, from Madden, NHL, to Fortnite even, to the back of Marvel Comics. Joywave is the band. Daniel Armbruster is the singer and the collector. Daniel, great to have you. There he is, right there. Daniel,
That's me.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Like I said, we could talk for a long time here, but thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to do this because, as we mentioned before we started recording, generally I'm talking about music. And I think we'll talk about music a little bit because that's my career and my main thing. But I've been a hockey fan for almost my entire life, and a hockey card collector since I was a kid. And as I said earlier, my girlfriend doesn't like to talk to me about hockey cards, but you do. So this is great.
Absolutely. And we're going to open up a couple little later at the end and see what we get, and hopefully we'll get some of your guys that you like here. So I do have to ask a little bit of music stuff, right? Because that's what you do, and that's what we got to start with. So I guess, I'm not going to ask you the traditional questions about music. So I got to start with a real basic one, though. When did you think you wanted to be a musician for a career?
Great question, because my original plan, I wanted to be a professional hockey player really bad. I did roller hockey, which was a thing in the 90s, and I was not really good at that. And eventually I gave up on that, and I bought a guitar, and I was always in symphonic band and stuff growing up. I played flute, which was a super cool decision, and then I played the bassoon, which was an equally super cool decision, and then I got into guitar. And I would say probably when I was in like ninth grade, I was kind of like, maybe there's something to this. And ever since then, I kind of lived my life in a fashion that would allow me maximum runway to attempt to do a music career. I remember in college, I lived at home, and I remember setting up my class schedule around band rehearsals, and like I went to school for history and economics, and the head of the history department was yelling at me and was like, well, what's more important, college and getting a degree or your band? And I looked at her and I said, obviously my band. I said, if you don't want me to go to this college, I don't have to. And my dad loves telling this story, and my schedule went from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. classes to like 3 hours in the morning real quickly. It was amazing how fast it opened up when I said college was not my priority. It was a good thing, though. I mean, you should
absolutely
do it if you're interested in it, for sure. But so I early high school.
You don't hear a lot of people talk about roller hockey, but when we were growing up, like that was such a big thing, especially like in Buffalo, Western New York, they had the pro teams and some of the other. It was crazy.
Dude, one of my good friends in LA grew up playing hockey, and he said similarly in the 90s he had like they had the Long Beach inline league or whatever, where they had like the ramps
in
behind
the back. Yep, that's crazy.
And he was like, that's what I wanted to do, and he's a musician too, so maybe
that's how it works out, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I got to ask too then, obviously, who are some of your musical influences, I guess, growing up? Obviously we're going to talk about sports guys, but obviously, from a music standpoint, were there any musicians or artists that really kind of spoke to you, that kind of used as an inspiration for your career?
Sure. I definitely bought a guitar because I got really into Blink-182 when I was like 14, like a lot of people. And you probably don't get that from listening to our music now, but that got me into later Jimmy Eat World and Saves the Day and Brand New and a lot of the like emo bands. And we had a pretty vibrant scene of that in Western New York in the mid 2000s. And then I remember seeing the Killers on like Fuse or MTV or something. I was like, what is this? And my parents liked the Beatles, and that was kind of it, and there wasn't a lot of music in my house growing up, so the Killers kind of introduced me to like New Order and all these awesome things that I had missed out on because I wasn't alive, and expanded my horizons. But really the things that like continue to inspire me are just people who do whatever they want whenever they want to do it. Like Kanye West might be crazy, but he wakes up in the morning and does exactly what he wants to do. I always love like Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. Like he owns a wrestling league, and you're like, why? And it doesn't matter why. Like he just feels like he wakes up, he looks in the mirror, he says, what should this guy not do? And then he goes and does that exact list of things. So that was kind of the idea behind Joywave, and the genesis of this band was like, we want to make what we want to make whenever we want to make it, however we want to make it. And that's what we've done. Like we still make all the records ourselves. We're in the studio right now.
Oh, it's awesome over there.
Yeah. So
I think it's really cool that, you kind of found music a little bit on your own. I mean, you hear so many stories of musicians and stuff where, music was, their parents were musicians, or music was always playing in the house, and you kind of got to find your own path a little bit. I think that's pretty interesting. That probably is a major reason why you've been able to kind of, carve the path you have in your career.
I think there's a lot to that. And I remember saying, Mom, Dad, I want a guitar. And they were like, start saving your money, kid. They were like, we got you a flute for middle school, and you don't like playing that, so why would you like playing the guitar? And I think there was a lot of that too, of my parents being supportive enough to they didn't kick me out of the house when I was 18, and they were like, there's a sandwich in the fridge you can eat that you don't have to pay for, which is an amazing advantage over having to work a ton of hours to live. But at the same time, not like buying me equipment or anything like that, and forcing me to appreciate it.
So the first time that you ever heard your voice or a Joywave song when it was fully produced, what was that moment like for you and the guys? Do you even remember that? Like I said, there's been so much.
Because we do it ourselves, so it's like I remember getting mixes back, like for our first major label record, How Do You Feel Now? This guy Neil Pogue mixed half of it, who had done one of my first favorite songs when I was a kid was TLC's Waterfalls. Like hearing that song, I was like, oh, music's really cool. Like this has trumpets in it, just like it does at school, the band at school, but it's awesome in this new way. And this guy Andy Wallace mixed the other half, who mixed like the Nirvana records and all sorts of big stuff. So I remember getting back versions of our songs that we had recorded and then sent to them to mix, and it just being really different. And like the first pass through, to this day, I never like the first mix of something I hear. I'm just like, because you get, it's called demoitis. You get used to it being the way that you made it, even if it's not as good as it could be. And then you hear it and you're like, why does my voice sound like that? I don't like that. And then the second listen, you're like, okay, this is acceptable. And then the third listen, you compare it back to what you had done. You're like, okay, this is actually way better, and I don't know how to mix at this Grammy award-winning level.
Well, listen, I could talk for music for a while with you, but we got to move on to talk about some sports stuff. So obviously you were a sports fan growing up. Who are some of your favorite athletes growing up?
Marty Brodeur was my favorite and kind of got me into hockey and sports cards in general. So I was a Devils fan early on, but I also always appreciated the Sabres because they're here, and we have the Amerks in Rochester, where I'm from. So then the Devils became unwatchable as the neutral zone trap continued to spread, and I would sit watching Sports Channel on like a Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. and I was like, I think I'm too young to watch 1-0 hockey games. Like,
are they ever going to score? Are they ever going to score?
Yeah. Like a 2-0 lead with Marty Brodeur in the net was just like, oh, it's a shutout. It could be the first period. It was just like, oh, he's done. So yeah, then I kind of became a fan of just like the entire league in general. The 06 playoff run for the Sabres was obviously amazing, and then after that, things have been medium good. But there's been so many fun things. Like just watching Jack Eichel play hockey is amazing. Like we've never had somebody of that caliber, that offensive caliber, that's like that fun to watch, where the guy gets the puck, makes a couple moves, and everyone's like, oh, is he gonna score right now? We've been for 20 years before that, it was like maybe the puck will bounce off of somebody.
Those are
That's
still
how
some
we
good
got
teams though there, but yeah, you're right. That excitement and having that, getting able to watch an athlete when they're at their best, right? Like that guy has a puck on his stick, you never know what's going to happen. And that I guess that's the greatest thing about sports. And you look at Marty Brodeur, obviously one of the best of all time. Like he was a game changer, with stuff like that. So with those guys, did you start collecting cards when you were a kid, or any sports memorabilia or anything?
I did, and pretty exclusively cards. I don't think I really have anything else, but yeah, I got.
You're prepared, which is good.
I'm so prepared right now. So this is a 96-97 SPX hockey, which is one of my all-time favorites. Is a Marty Brodeur card here, but you can't see because the light won't hit it right. But there's these like 3D holograms, which was so cool. And you're looking at it, and as you turn it, like Marty Brodeur kind of winks at you, which is.
That's crazy.
I guess a strange decision, but they made it.
Yeah.
And the whole series was just so cool. So one of my faves.
I remember like that was a big thing in the 90s with trying the holograms on cards and stuff like that. And if you're a kid growing up, that was like the greatest thing in the world. It's like, this isn't just normal cardboard here.
Right. It's you see in 3 dimensions like the player that you like, and they've tried to do a little bit of a comeback with this. Like Upper Deck did these like throwback cards. Like, so here's a Sam Reinhart one from his rookie season where it's got the hologram in there, but they didn't do it quite as like, it's not 3D. It's just like holographic in the way a Pokemon card is. Yeah. Less cool.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite card at all?
I do. This right here is the Tiger Woods Sports Illustrated for Kids card. And this card I did not realize I have, which I think most people who have this card probably didn't realize they had it. It ended up being the first printed Tiger Woods card. And I'm not a golf guy. I don't have any other golf cards, but in the Sports Illustrated for Kids magazines in the 90s, there would be cards in the middle. And it turned out that this ended up being the first ever printed Tiger Woods card. So I dug it out like 10 years later and was like, oh my God, this is worth money. And I got it graded, and it's pretty cool.
I remember being a kid when you got, your Sports Illustrated for Kids and you got those cards. Oh, these are the greatest things in the world. But man, these are just cardboard. They got the little ridges on them. Now you see, like I said, the amount of money that some of those are worth. And like you said, is the first ever printed Tiger Woods card was in that. There's not a lot of things that can be said like that. That's insane.
So crazy. I should probably sell it and like pay my parents back for, 10 years of Sports Illustrated magazine.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So, do you have a favorite sports moment? I guess, we've talked a little bit about cards. We're going to go back to that in a minute, but, we've talked about Brodeur and a little bit about Jack. Like, do you have a favorite sports moment or a few moments that like just really kind of stand out to you, either, currently or as a kid at all?
So my dad is a huge baseball fan. Huge Cleveland Indians fan, about to be the Cleveland Guardians. I'm going to buy him all Guardians merch for Christmas. I'll actually know what to get him this year. I think some of those like Indian teams in the late 90s, like 95, 97, they just had these, like we would go to games. We would drive the 4.5 hours or whatever to Cleveland. And it was just like the amount of walk-off wins the team would come back in the 9th inning and somehow pull it out. It was just magic. And there's this one amazing Kenny Lofton catch that, like, when you see highlight reels of Kenny Lofton's career,
that's what you see, right?
Yeah, it's that one, and I was there for it, and that would be awesome. My number one sports moment is like this. I can't remember if it was oh my God, who hit the ball? Brady Anderson. He was like the center fielder for the Orioles, and it was definitely about to be a home run, and everyone acted like it was gone. And Kenny Lofton had this look in his eyes of like, no, I think I'll climb the wall and get this, and then he did exactly that, where he like went 15 feet up the wall somehow and reached his glove over and robbed it. It was insane. I just got to chill thinking about being there.
And being there like that, that's everything, right? And I guess that's what sports does. It's just like music too, right? It hits you at different times, and it might not be the hit song or the big hit that kind of gets you, but there's those special moments that mean a little bit more to other people. And I guess that kind of goes with collecting too, right? If you open up a pack or you get a card or something like that, that either it's a player that you liked as a child or, the big hit, if you're opening something up, I guess there's nothing like that feeling.
Absolutely.
So I got to touch this before we talk a little bit more back into cards, but I always think you kind of live a kid's dream. Your music is in some of the biggest video game franchises, Madden, FIFA, MLB The Show. Like, what was that like when I guess, to find out your music was going to be in these games?
So I pretty exclusively played the NHL franchise growing up. So the other ones, they would like send me copies of the game because the songs were in them, and I would give them to friends who liked sports because I was just like, I don't know how to play Madden, dude. I'm not learning. Like, send me a video of like the song playing or something. Like, I'm curious about that. But this season, we have a song on NHL 21, and it's funny because like the NHL games are so much smaller than the other ones. Like FIFA is a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, the amount of people who come to shows now and say, hey, I heard, I heard you in FIFA or Fortnite. I mean, we had our song Destruction was in the original Fortnite trailer, which is now like the biggest video game of all time. So also, that similarly, people come to shows and say, I discovered the band from the game. But I also don't know how to play Fortnite. I'm a terrible gamer. So NHL 21, despite it being like probably like the sixth most popular video game we've been in, was like I put it in my girlfriend's Xbox, and I was like, yeah.
And do you sit there and just keep like just stay through that screen as much as you can, like just change colors, just so you can hear it for about 5-10 minutes just to see.
Yeah, just loop it. And I also realized that the games have gotten much harder since I played like the skill stick thing. I can't figure that out, dude.
I used to like just a little plus and the two little red buttons. That was good enough for me for a long time. That's for sure. Right? That's unbelievable. And then I also have to talk about too, in terms of the hobby and stuff like that, great collaboration with Marvel. If you haven't seen the Obsession video with the Marvel guys, it's awesome. It's so creative. You're such a visual band to begin with, but to see a video like that, what was that like? Are you a comic guy? And what was that like to have that collaboration there?
So I'm a medium comic guy, but our drummer is insane. Like he has web shooter tattoos. He's the biggest Spider-Man fan in the entire world. So all of that has been like so cool. I mean, we went to the Marvel headquarters, and they'll have artists in to show them around and stuff. And usually they're like, "Here's a statue of Captain America," because they like just think that we don't know. You know what I mean? Or they're like, these aren't comic guys. And Paul, our drummer, is walking around going, "I love the new issue of Squirrel Girl, issue 237," and they're like, What did you say? And so they're parading him around the hall like he's like the one. And they're like, Dude, he read Squirrel Girl. And the guy's like, what? You did? And it was just that over and over and over. And they're just handing him like signed issue of like Holy Grail items. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, and he's appreciating every single one. Like, this is one of my favorites, and that's my favorite comic book artist. So I kind of experienced those things vicariously through him, because I also, all of my understanding of the MCU and what's happening in comic books is from him to begin with. So he signed off on that collaboration, like the back panel and stuff. Yep. And when we did it, they asked him what characters he would like the artist to draw in it, and one of the artists sent him, for some reason, Spider-Man is like simultaneously owned the rights now between Disney and Sony or something. Yeah. So Spider-Man couldn't appear in this thing. So one of the guys who draws Spider-Man, one of Paul's favorite artists, drew him a Spider-Man pencil sketch, like specifically for Paul, that said like, "Hey Paul, from Spider-Man. Yeah, that's like
cool.
framed in his house. Yeah.
So that was his moment, right? Like you've had some really cool sports moments personally, We'll talk about that in a second, stuff with the Kings and obviously some time with the Sabres, but that must've been his moment, right? Like this is like, I made it and this is what I get because of it.
Dude, for sure. And now some of those guys will like tweet him back and stuff. And yeah, those are his heroes. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So out of some of your sports memories, recent years, obviously doing some stuff with the Sabres and the Kings, anything stand out with that? I think you got a pretty cool Kings jersey, I think, from your time doing some stuff with Bailey and some other stuff.
You want me to show that?
You have to. And you got to tell that quick little blurb about it too.
The Los Angeles Kings, very nice to us. Lovely franchise, lovely people. They gifted me with this Kings jersey when we went to one of the games, and they said, Dan, what number do you want on the back? And I said to our manager, I said, please tell them I want number 99 and see if they give it to me.
No chance, right?
No way.
There it is.
There's no way. And then I show up and someone at Staples Center hands me Armbruster number 99, which I proceeded to wear around the arena. And nobody tried to call me on it. Everyone was like, oh, he must be the great one, which was pretty impressive. But yeah, obviously a lot of very cool Sabres experiences and getting to talk to some of those guys. And like Jack signed a jersey for me at one point, which was amazing. It's funny because like I've had some very cool music experiences. I think I've mostly met almost everyone that I like grew up liking, or we've played a show with them, or like some of them I can just like talk to now, which is pretty cool. Yep. But for some reason, because I think because I'm a musician, like I can appreciate, I still like love the things that these people made, but I also now have seen behind the curtain so much that I'm like, everyone's just a person. Like there's no one that I've like, pretty much everyone at like the highest levels are very nice people because they understand how fortunate they've been to live this life. Like you said, it's a fantasy kid life, basically. You could just make music and still do the band you were doing when you were 16. So there's never any amount of like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm like David Byrne from Talking Heads walked into our green room at one point at a show in New York. And I was just like, hey, David Byrne, what's up? But like, if it had been Marty Brodeur, I would have been like, because like, yeah. Not that I could do what David Byrne does, but like he does music and I do music, and we're at different points in our career, but we're like both in the league.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely. That's a great way to say it. You're both in the show in your own different way of things.
Yeah. Whereas like,
but athletes feel the same too. I'll tell you that. I've been around enough athletes that feel the same way. And then around new musicians, they become, oh my gosh, I can't say that. I can't believe I said that to them. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't ask that. No different. It's crazy though.
But like they're such different. Like music and art is like a mental talent, I guess, and like sports is like a physical one. I mean, there's obviously a mental side of it. When you watch a goalie give up like 4 goals in 1 minute, you're like, get your head back in the game, man. You know, there's like some level of that, but yeah, it's just so different. And I do think there is like this weird mutual thing. I think it's actually like pretty well documented, probably not in like the hockey space as much, but just athletes like wishing they were musicians and musicians wishing they were athletes. But like I think about like growing up and I had like 0 athlete friends, and none of the athlete kids had like, but then you get into this upper echelon of stuff where it's like, you do experience some of the same things of like, just like people admiring you or liking what you do, or like stopping you at the grocery store or whatever, which is a nice thing, but like not everybody knows what that feels like. Right. Sure. So you do have like some connection in that regard. And there's maybe like a not a lifestyle overlap, but like a social where you're at and like what our society values overlap or something like that. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Still cool though. Still cool.
Yeah,
all
it's
over,
very
which
cool.
is good, All right. We could keep talking, but let's get to opening up some cards. So hopefully you have a couple of the packs with you. We got some Upper Deck cards to you.
I do, and I do need to show this because I watched your interview with fellow Rochester Brian Gianta, and you said, what was the first card or something? He was like, I don't know, probably something on the Devils, and he's wrong. It's the 98-99 Upper Deck choice, and I believe that is the Brian Gianta rookie card.
I cannot wait to call him out on that. He should know these things.
As you should. And while we're doing Western New York, I wanted to get this one in too because it's a Marty Biron rookie, a very cool 96-97 Fleer, and then the Amerks version.
See, that's a special one that not a lot of people have, I bet.
Right?
So that's pretty legit right there. We like that.
Yeah. You had to go to the game to get that one.
That's pretty good. And obviously, you must have went to a bunch of games growing up over there, right? You got to see a lot of those future NHL stars there too.
Absolutely. I think actually my first hockey game I ever went to was I had someone from the Amerks look this up for me, like the game score sheet. But it was 93-94 season, and the Amerks were hosting the Utica Devils that night. And Marty Brodeur did not get the start, but he was on the roster. But it was like before I knew who Marty Brodeur was. And I was like, I wonder if he played that night, like in hindsight.
That's awesome.
All right, we've got 2021 Series 1 Upper Deck right now.
Perfect. We'll open up a couple packs. Open up. Let's see who you got.
All right. This is actually the most nerve-wracking part of any of this is like, am I going to do it right?
Watch your corners.
I know.
That's how I always am with these things.
Dude, I'm like such a shaky guy that I'm always, please don't damage them.
You're a details guy.
You've got an Elvis here, which I thought he was going to end up a Sabre at one point in the offseason.
A lot of talk there.
Yeah. Carter Hart just signed a new deal. Overpaid? What do you think? Maybe?
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but that's a tough goalie market. So hopefully that's their guy.
Oh, we got a Dougie Hamilton here. Man, these green, the Whalers
that's
jerseys.
That's what it's all about
Carolina,
right there.
I feel bad for the people of Hartford. Like skating around in a Whalers jersey in Carolina.
It's one of those things too. I wonder if like back in the day when they were wearing those uniforms and the team was in Hartford, if they like, wow, we have a really cool uniform, or they were like, ugh, that's a lot of green. Now it's just like, it's such a revered look. It's such a revered logo, and it's so simple, but man, is it classic.
Yeah. It's I think that and the Nordiques logo are like my two favorites, and I guess they do the same thing, right? They're wearing around the Nordique logo in Denver, which is, I bet the people of Quebec City are way angrier than the people of Hartford.
But what a classic look, though.
So awesome. All right, let's see. We got a Nick Suzuki. All right, that's cool.
That's a good one.
Now check this out. This fellow, famous Philadelphia Flyer legend, Ristolainen.
I think he's going to do really well there. I think he's going to do a great job there.
I think he is too. He's I know that the numbers people don't like him, but I remember several very large overtime goals from him. And
he's tough. He can't always get toughness too.
True. We got our first insert here. We've got a Philip Grubauer, NHL Worldwide. This is these are the Flag Series inserts in this run.
That's a pretty cool one.
Yeah, that's a good pull. Got Jonathan Marchessault, Duncan Keith. That was a wild trade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no comment.
All right, open up one more pack for us. Let's see if you get anything else out of there.
Cool.
So when did you kind of get back into collecting a little bit? Was it during the pandemic a little bit?
Yeah, I think I read an article that was like card collecting is back, and I had finished the record that we had been working on, which is out early next year, by the way.
That was my last thing I'm going to ask you, but
Yeah,
throw it out
okay,
there
all right.
now. Throw it out there now.
I gotta plug my stuff.
Absolutely.
And then yeah, I was like, what should I get into now? And I'd gotten like obsessed with buying guitars, which is like a good thing for me, right? Because
absolutely.
if you buy a piece of equipment and it inspires you, maybe you've created something that will inspire other people or whatever. So I bought that guitar that's right over there.
That's nice.
And I was like, should I keep buying $2,000 guitars? And I was like, probably not, as a guy who hasn't played a concert in 18 months because of a pandemic. And I was like, I don't have any cards of the Sabres players that I like. So I started getting a couple things. So I got like an Eichel Young Guns rookie, a couple things like that. And some of the singles on eBay and stuff, totally, like I got a Rasmus Asplund Future Watch Auto rookie for like $4, because that's cool to me, and to some guy in Montreal, he just wants to put that $4 towards his next Nick Suzuki card. Yep. Portraits, UD Portrait Series. Oh, these are kind of fun. Here's a Mitch Marner portraits card. Very, very retro.
I like that. The look in the back, the lasers. I like that.
Yeah. Very, picture day.
Yep.
A lot of these retro cards they're doing, I think, are really smart too, because like the Sam Reinhart card I showed you earlier with the hologram, I was kind of just Googling about like what has been happening in the 15 years I haven't been paying attention to this. And I saw that they were like reissuing some of the styles of cards that I liked as a kid, but with the new players. And I was like, all right, I should probably have a couple of these. But
crazy
cool.
how it hooks you. Well, listen, I don't want to take any more of your time. We could have talked for hours about stuff. We kind of scratched the surface a little bit. So hopefully we can get you on again down the road to talk a little bit, during the hockey season or something like that. And once you guys get going again a little bit. So I guess, I have to ask, it's been a while since you've been able to be on stage, but what have you guys been up to?
I spent the last year and a half recording. The pandemic derailed our last record. Our third album, called Possession, came out March 13th, 2020. We had a whole tour plan. Yep. It was going to be amazing. I mean, we did so much the last cycle. Like I think we played MSG 2 times on the last cycle. I mean, everything was, going really well. And just a lot of people had a lot worse things happen to them than lose a tour or a record cycle, obviously. So I just tried to keep perspective. The studio is in my house now, so I just came down here and worked on music. And we have a new EP called Every Window is a Mirror that came out June 25th, and that has 4 songs on it, which are really just songs arriving early from our next record, which will be out early next year. And hopefully we're able to tour that one. Hopefully there's fans allowed in NHL buildings again. That would be a nice thing to do while I'm home, but it's going to be interesting, and no one really knows, huh?
No, it's crazy. Well, hopefully we kind of start turning the corner again. So listen, thanks so much for your time. Check out Joywave if you haven't yet. This is a pretty visual band. The videos are fantastic. You guys are such a creative group. Keep collecting, Daniel, and looking forward to talking to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to this latest episode of The Standard. Make sure to follow us on all our social channels to find out all the updates on upcoming shows. Once again, this is Chris Bandura. You're watching The Standard.